So thank you for that wonderful introduction. And of course, thank you to the organizers for inviting me here today to speak a little bit about Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Now, I always enjoy speaking in Hong Kong. I love Hong Kong. I've been in Hong Kong for almost 10 years, and so most of my crypto experience has been in Hong Kong, in this region. But over the past few years, I've also developed a very strong interest in the emerging markets across Asia, Latin America, and Africa. Yes? Oh. There's only one page. It's okay, no problem. No problem. We're just going to stay on this page. So let me think about what I want to say. Lost my mind. So in any case, I'm very interested in the emerging markets. In fact, maybe a lot of you might not realize that, Bitcoin, I know Bitcoin traced a new all-time high this year, but actually last year, Bitcoin was already tracing new highs in Nigeria, in Argentina, in Lebanon. In fact, if you're hoping to see a God candle, then last year there was a God candle. I'll call it the Egyptian God candle, where overnight Bitcoin went up by 1 million Egyptian pounds. So these things happen in the emerging markets. What can we learn about this? Well, first of all, in the emerging markets, they also feel the expanding money supply, but they feel it 10 times more. So basically, we see prices rise here as well, right? The taxi in Hong Kong is a little bit more expensive. Some other goods are more expensive. Well, in the emerging markets, a lot of them, prices have gone up by multiple factors. The second thing that we can say is that Bitcoin's direction is quite clear everywhere, but the volatility looks different in every country, which tells me that the volatility has less to do with Bitcoin and more to do with the fiat currencies against which it's being traded. And the more volatile, the more sick that financial system is within which Bitcoin is taking root, in a sense. Now, I think another thing is that you might think it's unimportant. We look at US dollar values when it comes to Bitcoin or digital assets. But in reality, more than 70% of the world actually lives in these emerging markets. So we are in the minority. This is not the dominant experience of crypto. Even Web3, when we talk about Web3, it's not necessarily the dominant experience. So a few years ago, and some of you in this room actually were involved with this, we did a really deep research project with Forrester. Forrester is a think tank. And we did a deep research project into what Bitcoin adoption looks like in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And of course, I was hoping to see that Bitcoin was being adopted in a great way and much more than elsewhere, but that's not really what I found. What we found instead is that the emerging markets, when it comes to economic activity, it's much more survival driven. There's much less expendable wealth. And so slightly more focus on stable coins or maybe tokenized gold. So in Latin America, in a country like Colombia, there's a deep appreciation of gold. And so tokenized gold, or let's say tether gold, XAUT, does better in Colombia than in some other Latin American countries. In the rest of Latin America, it's really about the US dollar. Like, that's the store of value. And I think this is interesting. In South Africa, where I've now joined VALR, which was, I joined it nine months ago. So VALR is backed by Pantera Capital, of course, and by Coinbase Ventures and by Avon Ventures. It's a strong exchange. It's been around since 2018. But what many people don't know is that the bulk of the volume of VALR is actually coming from institutions and corporations. And I'll explain a little bit about that in a minute. So I think wherever we look, we can see that the adoption of Bitcoin and crypto looks very different. And maybe the best way to think about this is in terms of transformation. So we can talk about 3 different types of transformation. The first type of transformation is cultural transformation. This is what we can see in Hong Kong. This is what we talk about when we say Web3, when we talk about NFTs, when we talk about GameFi. It's about culture, it's about an internet culture, it's about community building. And this is exciting, it's important, But it's not the only level at which transformation takes place. There is another level at which transformation takes place. This is the level of financial transformation. So when we talk about financial transformation, we're talking about smart contracts, we're talking about remittances, we're talking about payments, new infrastructure, RWAs, ETFs. Sure, I'll talk faster. ETFs. And even self-custody as a feature and a capability in this new financial system is part of financial transformation. This is where the regulators come in. This is where they start to look at the system. Web3 is not so controversial. And there's a reason for that. Because the third transformation type is that of monetary transformation. Monetary transformation is where that very deep change happens. Perhaps we end up moving away from the US dollar. Monetary transformation is about separating money and state. It's not going to happen so soon, not here, not in America, but in the emerging markets. There's a different opportunity. Something is happening there. You can build in the margins. That's the idea. And so, this is also where the central banks get a little bit nervous everywhere around the world. That's not about China or Hong Kong or Russia or America, everywhere. I've spent a lot of time in the UAE. Everybody knows that Dubai is very forward-looking when it comes to crypto. Until you step into the bank, then it becomes a little bit difficult. Suddenly it's a little bit nerve-wracking because the central bank also doesn't exactly know what it wants to do. Because in the end, the banking system is very tied up with the US banking system. And you know, if you do the wrong thing when you're a bank in an emerging market and you lose your US dollar capabilities, you're done. Gone is your bank. So I think we really need to be aware that these three different transformations are taking place simultaneously. And we see it all over the world. Bhutan has been mining Bitcoin for years. They have a Bitcoin treasury. El Salvador has adopted Bitcoin as legal tender. In Hong Kong, we see Web3 proliferate. Different countries do different things, and I think that's the main message. We cannot just say Hong Kong is the hub for crypto. Hong Kong is the hub for a certain type of adoption of crypto. South Africa is the hub for a different type of adoption. You know, at VALR, most of our volume comes from corporations because of structural arbitrage opportunities that you can't find anywhere else. Like the kimchi, premium kimchi in kimchi premium in Korea. Similar in South Africa. But not just that, it's also about fintechs. There are fintechs in South Africa that are now building on top of VALR, who have access to 20 million or more users who can get access to USDC with one click. So this is the type of stuff that I can see in Africa. It's much more infrastructural, but very meaningful. And so I want to end with a little conclusion. And the conclusion is that when you look at the emerging markets, you will see the amplification of, I can talk slower then. You can see the amplification of everything. The prices. If Bitcoin goes high here, it will go much higher there, because the currency is just that much weaker. And so what I want to share with you is, I'm very happy about what Hong Kong has been doing. I wish the legislator was still here. You know, it's really great to see what Hong Kong is doing. Hong Kong is leading in the cultural transformation. Hong Kong is even leading in the financial transformation. There's a lot of collaborations happening with banks and wallets and this and that. But Hong Kong may not be leading with the monetary transformation. That is unfolding in the emerging markets. And so I would say Hong Kong is, by the way, and we'll get there. We will get there. I bet you there will be a day within the decade and Hong Kong Monetary Authority will surely have some Bitcoin in the treasury. I believe it. Even the US will do it. They will all do it. But they won't be the first movers because there's just too much at stake. And so I wouldn't say that Asia, Africa, and Latin America is the next frontier. I would say it is the frontier. And with that, I would like to close. So thank you very much, and see you next time.